directly on our border, but we have also this bigger and bigger problem with weaponized illegal migration tactics of Belarus and Russia. And this is something really serious, not only for Poland, not only for the Baltic states, but it's a part of our common European defense policy, and this is, I have no doubts that we are talking about external European borders, and we are talking today about the threat for all the EU and all the, in fact, the political West. And I'm pretty sure that today all our partners in the EU understand much better than ever before that common European responsibility for our security, for our safety, this is something absolutely needed today, and this is the reason why I decided to propose this initiative on this air defense shield together with Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos, and second this Baltic defense line in the Baltic states, and in Poland this is this so-called Shield East with some infrastructure, fortifications, etc. I can talk about it for hours, but sorry.
Have you spoken to the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, about the top jobs?
Not yet. I hope that I will have today an occasion as a part of the European Council. But one thing must be clear: no one respects Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and Italy more than I do, really. And it's a misunderstanding that, okay, sometimes we need specific political platforms to ease the process. The common position of these three biggest groups in the European Council. As you know, we have ended our negotiations inside this political platform, but this is only to facilitate the process here. The decision is for Madame Meloni and other leaders during our European Council meeting, and the only intention and the only reason why we have prepared this common position is to facilitate this process, really. And there is no Europe without Italy, and there is no decision without Prime Minister Meloni. It's obvious for me.
Thank you very much.
I believe today the main task is to agree on top jobs and on security and on economy. So I believe for me as a Prime Minister from EPP Group, Ursula von der Leyen is a good candidate for Commission, head of Commission, and Kaja Kallas would be a great candidate for a High Representative of Foreign Council. So we have to work on to protect our foreign affairs as well as to protect our security and defense. Europe must remain united. That's why I believe a good compromise will be that Costa could be a head of European Council. For Latvia, it's very important that defense and security will be addressed, and instrumentalization of migration on our borders can be addressed as well. So we have signed a letter from 3 Baltic states and Poland together to fight against instrumentalization of migration, as well as to make one united defense line with Russia and Belarus within European Union. So, and third issue is economics, and I believe we will talk today as well for prosperity, how we will make Europe more competitive and more prosperous. Thank you.
What about Gaza? What about Lebanon today?
Mahdollisesti 2. Periaatteessa asiat on hyvin pitkällä sekä nimityspaketti että sisältöasiat, strateginen agenda. Siitä en ole esimerkiksi kuullut paljon poikkeavia luonnoksesta, mutta on avoimia kysymyksiä vielä nyt ehkä nimityspakettiin liittyen, että katsotaan nyt, miten tämä lähtee tästä liikkeelle. No varmaan se on tämä kysymys, joka on tiedossa, että onko kaikki jäsenmaat mukana tässä aika laajasti sovitussa paketissa, jossa siis Ursula von der Leyen olisi komission puheenjohtaja, Costa Eurooppa-neuvoston puheenjohtaja ja sitten Kaja Kallas, korkea edustaja. Se nähdään hetken päästä, miten tämä lähtee. Töitä on paljon tehty taustalla, keskusteltu päämiesten kesken ja samaan aikaan tietenkin pitää miettiä parlamenttia, koska sitten tälle paketille pitää olla parlamentin tuki. Ja tämä on tämmöinen monimutkainen kokonaisuus. Lähellä ollaan, katsotaan. No ensin demokratiaan, niin kyllähän se kuitenkin kolme isoa puoluetta on keskustellut keskenään ja myöskin näitä keskusteluja nyt varsinkin viimeisen viikon aikana käyty paljon enemmän tässä pitää nähdä 2 eri tasoa. On toisaalta tämä Eurooppa-neuvoston taso, jossa päämiehet puhuu keskenään, jossa on esimerkiksi Italian pääministeri paikalla. Sitten ECR sisällä on paljon eri puolueita ja ECR on siinä mielessä aika ei niin yhtenäinen kokonaisuus. Tämä tekee tämän haasteen tähän, mutta on selvää, että Italia suurena EU-jäsenmaana niin kyllähän täytyy jotenkin saada kädenjälkensä näkyviin. Mä pidän sitä itse asiassa aika selvänä. Ei mitään sellaista, jonka tässä nyt niin kuin edes pystyisi jakamaan, eikä siis ole, mutta selkeästi on keskusteluja käyty, mutta ei ole vielä mitään sellaista ratkaisevaa elementtiä olemassa.
näkyykö tämä tilanne jotenkin siinä?
Joo, siis mun tietääkseni strategiseen agendaan ei ole tulossa, ei ole paineita. Varmaan se on kuitenkin laaja asiakirja ja tullaan käymään perusteellinen keskustelu, mutta mä luulen, että se menee aika hyvin. Ja siitä minun pitää sanoa se, että se on niin kuin suoraan Suomen avaintavoitteista. Me voidaan olla hyvin tyytyväisiä siihen kokonaisuuteen, mikä siellä on. Turvallisuus, kilpailukyky, vihreä siirtymä, digitalisaatio, osaaminen, teollisuuspolitiikkaa, erittäin hyvä rajaturvallisuus. Nämä asiat löytyy sieltä.
Jos ajatellaan pieni ajatusleikki, spekulaatiota, kuitenkin taloudellinen tilanne, niin jos Melonien kanssa tulisi ylityksen taakse, niin me tässä sitten määräenemmistöllä.
En mä halua sitä ennakoida. Luotan siihen, että kun päämiesten kesken tuolla aletaan istumaan, niin ratkaisut löydetään. Pakko löytää. Anteeksi. No ehkä sen haluaisin sanoa, että kuten varmaan tiedossa, niin presidentti Zelenskiy osallistuu. Se on hieno asia taas ja tullaan allekirjoittamaan EUn ja Ukrainan välinen turvasitoumus. Ja tämä on taas jälleen kerran yksi merkki siitä, miten EU-maat yhtenäisenä tukee Ukrainaa sen taistelussa Venäjän raakaa hyökkäystä vastaan. Tuetaan kaikki keinoin. Kiitos.
Hi everyone. See you. I'm going to just say I'm delighted to be here at the European Council today for what really is a bumper agenda. Very pleased that we're taking a historic step forward today in the fact that the European Council will of course be discussing Ukraine's membership of the European Union, having had the intergovernmental conference in recent days. Looking forward to welcoming President Zelensky here to Brussels today, as well as another symbol of the ongoing solidarity that the European Union will continue to show with Ukraine for as long as it takes in the face of Russia's brutal illegal invasion. Also very much looking forward to conversations and discussions we'll have around the issue of competitiveness, conscious that at a time when Europe faces many external threats, that obviously takes up a lot of the bandwidth, understandably. But it is really important as we move into a new cycle that we do ensure that there is a focus on things like competitiveness, on things like the single market, on things like making sure that it works for small and medium enterprises, that it works for Irish businesses and for Irish farmers. And of course, today I believe we will bring finality from the Council's point of view to the three top roles in the European institutions for the next period of time, namely the President of the Commission, the President of the Council and the High Representative for Foreign Affairs.
Tony?
Given the speculation about the announcement that Ireland was kind of gone early on its Commission nomination, do you expect to speak to President von der Leyen and Margins today about potential roles for Michael Grant? And do you think it would help if government MEPs of the Commission said that they would vote for Ursula von der Leyen, given that she needs support in the European Parliament?
Well, look, I've always believed that these processes should be taken step by step. The first step today is for the European Council to confirm the nominee that it intends to put to the European Parliament to be the next President of the Commission. There's absolutely no doubt. There is a clear consensus that will be Ursula von der Leyen. Obviously then President von der Leyen will need to be confirmed by the Parliament, and then and only then does she begin the process of considering the allocation of portfolios. I do believe there's an advantage in having clarity on the name of the Irish Commissioner at a relatively early stage, and I also think it is a symbol of intent and how seriously we take the European Union that we have sent one of our most senior politicians. It's a big decision for a government, particularly at this stage in the government cycle, to send its finance minister, and we're doing that because we believe you need to send people of seriousness, of substance and with significant experience. So I will be taking every opportunity in the coming hours, days, weeks, along with coalition leaders and others, to back Ireland's Commission commissioner. Obviously, the portfolio that he gets will be a matter for the President in due course, but he obviously is well placed, I think, to play an important economic role. He's well placed to do that based on the political and ministerial experience he has, and also his own professional qualifications too. In relation to government MEPs, look, I think we are entering a different stage of the cycle here again, because what we're effectively seeing, and for people at home it might be useful to know this, what we're effectively seeing is a three-party coalition come together at a European level. The EPP, which my party Fine Gael is a member of, the S&D, which the Irish Labour Party is a member of, and the Renew Group, which Fianna Fáil are a member of. Those groups have come together and they have reached an agreement based on the votes that the Irish people and European people gave in terms of the different roles in the European institutions. I think when it comes to MEPs voting for the Commission President, they're effectively voting for that Commissioner's team. But there's a way to go here. The first step is for the Council to conclude its work today. But of course I think it is helpful now that we have sight of our nominee for MEPs to reflect on that as well, and how they can assist Michael McGrath and assist Ireland in getting the best portfolio possible. So I'm aware that President von der Leyen may seek the name of a man and a woman. Ireland has done that in the past. On occasions Ireland has sent one name, on occasions Ireland has sent more than one name. On this occasion, respectfully and in accordance with the treaties, we have taken a decision to send one name. And we do that because, we're sending our finance minister. We've asked somebody to effectively step down from their cabinet role, to step down from preparing the next budget. It's important that before you ask them to do that they have clarity that they are going to be the nominee. So our position from an Irish point of view on the name of our next commissioner is settled, and settled in accordance with our coalition agreement. On Gaza and on the Middle East, look, firstly, I welcome the fact that we're going to have time and space to have a proper, detailed discussion in relation to this today. My position is very, very clear. I do not believe we are using all of the levers at our disposal as a European Union to bring about maximum pressure to create an immediate ceasefire. That has been the position of the Irish government since March. It remains my position today. It is the position that I will articulate at the European Council. I think it would be... I can't find an adequate word to capture how it would be so inadequate to see conclusions that do not reference the importance of complying with the ICJ. I mean, for me, that's kind of basic. I mean, we are the European Union. We value the rule of law. We value international institutions. We value multilateralism. And we have a court, an international court. And by God, we should recognise when it makes an order. So I think that's really important. I'd like to see recognition included in the conclusions. Of course I would, because Ireland, Spain, and obviously outside the EU, but in our European family, Norway, have recognised the state of Palestine. But the most important thing is that the ICJ and its role does need to be recognised, in my view.
The issue of the two names, is it understanding that based on back channels and other things that von der Leyen did ask for two names if she's leaving the Parliament in July? And are you saying clearly that if she does in her letter, insist on these two candidates, that Ireland, despite that, will be just sending one?
It's important that everyone's mutually respectful of the process, of the roles and the treaties. I have huge respect for President von der Leyen. I also have huge respect for the treaties. And the treaties are very clear that it's a matter for a member state to decide who it wishes to nominate. It's perfectly within the President's rights to indicate her views and preferences in any correspondence. Of course it is. But our government has made a decision. We have decided to send one of our most senior politicians, one of our most senior ministers, our finance minister, and we won't be deviating from that. So I expect President von der Leyen may well indicate that she'd like more than one name. It's absolutely perfectly fine for her to indicate that. It's also perfectly fine for member states to reflect on it and decide to proceed as they see best in their domestic situation.
Louise.
I don't believe so, because I believe, and I know President von der Leyen and how she thinks and how she operates, and I believe she will assess, ultimately, when she has all of the candidates for the Commission, she will assess candidates on their merit, on their ability, and she'll want to build the best and strongest team. And when one examines objectively the credentials of Michael McGrath and the serious level at which he was already serving in an Irish government, I think that will stand us in good stead.
Louise.
Can you just give us any brief comment on that if you can? Do you feel safe situation that you envisage having to do with your wife in London? And then secondly, another Wicklow Mail matter. There was a LGBT pride disco organised for teens in Newtown Kennedy, and that's been cancelled due to fears of protests. Is that a concern for you?
That is a concern for me, and I think it's utterly unacceptable that that's happened. It's not on. I'm really saddened that it happened, quite frankly. It's not the Wicklow or the community that I know and have lived in all my life. And I think Pride has been such a great moment of both celebration of inclusion and diversity in Ireland, but also a moment of protest and challenge that we must do more, we must do better, and that our journey isn't finished. And I find it highly regrettable that that has happened in relation to that, and particularly some of what I read in relation to I'm trying to find the appropriate word, but in relation to how individual organisers were perhaps intimidated or targeted in some way. Look, in relation to my own situation, I don't really wish to comment on it other than to say obviously this is a clearly unacceptable situation. Even the word hoax I'm not sure is a fair word with respect, because I've no doubt these things are done to intimidate, to upset. I have young children, I have a wife, and this is an utterly unacceptable situation. I do think, and I say this really respectfully, I do think all of us in our discourse, including media, need to reflect on how we sometimes comment on these matters. You know, if masked men turned up outside your house, it wouldn't be described as protest. It's not protest when it happens outside my house either. And, you know, this situation can't be allowed to continue.
Do you think you're going to have to move, or are you staying in your own home?
I'm staying at my home. Yeah.
Jane?
So I've been in daily contact with the Taoiseach, who's obviously the Minister for Defence, on this matter. Indeed, I've spoken to him as recently as an hour ago. My understanding is that he has now received some information from the Defence Forces, which is currently being analysed, because we've got to get this right. Can I just say this at the outset, because I have nothing but respect and indeed pride in the many thousands of men and women who serve in Oakland and who serve with distinction on a daily basis at home and abroad. And I think as Taoiseach, the best thing I can do for them is make sure these matters are not allowed to lie, that it's just not accepted and that it's called out. Remember, it's only about a year since a judge-led independent review into our defence forces uncovered really horrific situations. The Chief of Staff referred to the findings as stark. We then had a situation where the government has had to establish a tribunal of investigation. So let me just be clear, the last thing we need and the last thing I'll tolerate is anonymous briefings in relation to the Defence Forces. I'm the Taoiseach of this country, and zero tolerance is not a political slogan. Zero tolerance is the cultural change that must become embedded in every part of Irish society, including the Defence Forces. And anonymously brief away if you wish, but I will speak up and speak out for the women of this country who have felt failed, badly failed, over a significant period of time. My colleague, Minister Karen McNeill, has met with women in the Defence Forces. The Taoiseach is leading an important programme of reform, and I commend and support the work that he is doing. But we are not where we need to be in relation to zero tolerance. And people in every aspect of Irish society need to know zero tolerance isn't just something they talk about in the Dáil. It's something you have a responsibility to implement in your workplace as well. And I'll await the full report and detail from the Taoiseach, who's due to meet with the Chief of Staff. But I do remain this afternoon very concerned. There is no place, in my view, for people who have convictions in our Defence Forces, particularly convictions in relation to domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. And I also think there's serious consideration together we need to give, and I accept this may require change on our end too, in relation to if there's serious allegations made against somebody, what happens to them in the period of time before that allegation goes to court? How can they possibly be allowed to continue to serve? And is there a need to change regulations in that space? There may be. So enough of the whataboutery, enough of the anonymous briefing. It's a serious issue here. And as Taoiseach, I remain concerned this afternoon, and we're going to get to the bottom of this, and we're going to get it right.
Sarah?
Could you say that again?
Are you happy with the quality of the information that you received from the Defence Forces?
I want to reserve judgment on that, because the Taoiseach is doing very important work in relation to this, and I support him fully on it. But what I want to have is a very clear understanding and picture of the question that I asked this week. How many people in the Defence Forces, are there people serving in the Defence Forces who have a criminal conviction? Are there people serving in the Defence Forces who have a criminal conviction related to domestic, sexual and gender-based violence? And are there people serving in the Defence Forces who may not yet have a conviction, but may have been accused of such crime and such wrongdoing? I think it's really important we get this right, and I think what needs to happen now is an end to the anonymous briefings, including the ones that I read in your paper this morning. I'm not going to stop as Taoiseach of this country until we get the right answers in relation to this. Zero tolerance is something we have worked so hard on. There is a political and societal consensus about this, and we're going to get this right. And we're going to get it right for the incredible men and women in the Defence Forces who wear that uniform with pride, and they want us to get it right too.
Sarah, no, I'm sorry. Sarah, final question.
Topic about that, on defence, we talked about operations, joint procurement, running for defence against the budget, and right now it's withdrawn now from the state part of it. Anything Ireland has to offer?
So look, I think it's important to say that today is in the space of a discussion and an airing of views and an oral presentation rather than a paper, and that gives an indication in and of itself at the early stage that these conversations are in. I mean, Ireland's lines are always clear in relation to our own military neutrality, but that's not the same as saying we should be afraid of having conversations around security and defence, because our country isn't immune from many of the threats that Europe faces as well. I think there's a number of issues here. There's policy issues around security and defence. I think you're also beginning to see that there's clearly issues about how such things would be funded. And indeed, there's many concerns, including from large member states, as to how you might do that. So I think we're at an early stage of this discussion, but it is an important discussion. We're going to meet President Zelensky here in Brussels. There's a war on the continent of Europe. There's member states of this European Union literally at the front line here, and we need to bottom out these. But today's discussion I expect to be exploratory.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Wir kommen jetzt hier zusammen zum Europäischen Rat, um jetzt unmittelbar nach den europäischen Wahlen Entscheidungen zu treffen, die wichtig sind für die weitere Arbeit Europas. Wir leben in nicht einfachen Zeiten. Wir sind mit großen Herausforderungen konfrontiert, nicht zuletzt dem furchtbaren Angriffskrieg Russlands gegen die Ukraine. Und deshalb ist es wichtig, dass Europa sich jetzt aufstellt für die Aufgaben, die zu bewältigen sind. Das hat zunächst einmal etwas zu tun mit der Herausforderung, die der russische Krieg mit sich bringt. Deshalb ist es wichtig, dass wir hier Klarheit zeigen, auch mit den Beschlüssen, die wir treffen. Für mich ist wichtig, dass wir das nachvollziehen, was auch im Rahmen der G7 besprochen worden ist, wo wir möglich gemacht haben, auch durch die Hebelung von Windfall Profits dazu beizutragen, dass wir 50 Milliarden Dollar zusammen mit den USA und anderen G7-Partnern zur Verfügung stellen können, schnell und zügig, sodass die Ukraine in der Lage ist, daraus die Dinge zu finanzieren, die sie benötigt in den nächsten Jahren. Zuallererst natürlich Waffen, das ist klar, aber selbstverständlich auch Dinge, die etwas mit wirtschaftlichem Wiederaufbau zu tun, mit der Reparatur der Energieinfrastruktur, wenn es um humanitäre Hilfe geht. Das ist ja etwas, was wir als Partner der USA und anderer G7-Staaten jetzt auch möglich machen müssen, indem das schnell umgesetzt und fortgesetzt wird. Es ist deshalb gut, dass wir aktuell auch mit dem ukrainischen Präsidenten Zelenskyy diese Frage weiter erörtern, mit dem wir ein Abkommen unterzeichnen werden. Auch das ein Zeichen der Solidarität in schwieriger Zeit. Zweitens wird es darum gehen, dass wir dann bei dieser Gelegenheit auch in Europa unsere Hausaufgaben machen. Wir haben uns schon beschäftigt mit der Frage, wie kann man angesichts des Ausfalls russischer Energielieferungen Europa resilient machen. Das ist weitgehend gelungen, bleibt aber eine Aufgabe. Gleichzeitig haben wir unzählige Millionen Flüchtlinge aus der Ukraine aufgenommen in unseren Ländern. Wir haben gerade entschieden, dass wir die entsprechende Aufnahmebereitschaft der Europäischen Union noch einmal verlängern. Gleichzeitig haben wir die Voraussetzungen dafür geschaffen, dass das jetzt möglich ist. Aber die Frage, wer macht was, ist nicht klar verteilt. Deutschland, Polen, Tschechien zum Beispiel und noch einige wenige weitere Länder haben die meisten Flüchtlinge aufgenommen. Und deshalb finde ich zusammen mit meinen Kollegen, dass es auch jetzt an der Zeit ist, Entscheidungen zu treffen, die, wenn die anderen Länder sich weniger an der Aufnahme der Flüchtlinge beteiligen, bedeuten das aber finanziell Europa diesen Ländern ganz besonders beisteht für die Finanzierung von Lebensunterhalt, beruflichen Trainings, Sprachkursen und all den Dingen, die da eine Rolle spielen. Das habe ich der Kommissionspräsidentin zusammen mit meinen Kollegen aus Polen und Tschechien auch geschrieben. Und wir werden darüber auch diskutieren wollen. Ansonsten ist ein wichtiges Thema hier dann natürlich, damit alles ins Laufen kommt, die Besetzung der zentralen Funktionen, über die der Rat zu beschließen hat. Das heißt, die Frage, wer wird die nächste Kommissionspräsidentin, die Frage, wer wird hohe Beauftragte, wer wird in Zukunft den Europäischen Rat führen. Sie wissen, dass es eine gemeinsame Position der Parteifamilien, der konservativen Sozialdemokraten und Liberalen gibt. Das ist insofern relevant, weil ja die Kommissionspräsidentin auch eine Mehrheit im Parlament braucht. Insofern ist das hier nicht nur etwas, wo sich 27 Staats- und Regierungschefs darauf einigen müssen, sondern auch eine Frage, wo es darum geht, wie ist die politische Mehrheit, die die Kommissionspräsidentin im Parlament trägt. Und da ist unsere Absicht, dass die politische Plattform, die Frau von der Leyen in der Vergangenheit getragen hat, das auch in Zukunft tun soll, also EPP, S&D und Renew. Und die Verständigung für einen Vorschlag, den wir gemacht haben, trägt dem Rechnung, dass eine solche Mehrheit auch gefunden werden kann, mit Frau von der Leyen als Kommissionspräsidentin, mit Kaja Kallas als hoher Beauftragter und mit Antonio Costa als Präsident des Europäischen Rates. Jetzt diskutieren wir mit unseren guten Freunden in Europa und die klare Hoffnung ist natürlich, dass alle diesen im Parlament auf eine Mehrheit rechnen könnenden Vorschlag unterstützen. It's very good that you, but please, I will just speak in German today.
Verstehen Sie, dass sich Frau Meloni hier übergangen fühlt?
Hier entscheiden 27 Mitgliedstaaten im Europäischen Rat. Aber ich habe ja schon gesagt, es geht auch darum, wie ist die Plattform, die im Parlament die Kommissionspräsidentin trägt. Und dafür haben wir eine politische Verständigung erzielt unter diesen drei Parteifamilien. Das ist nur eine Position. Wir werden das hier sorgfältig, fair miteinander diskutieren. Da sind alle 27 gleich viel bedeutend. Und das ist mir auch wichtig. Aber wir haben eine Entscheidungsbildung erleichtert, weil der Europäische Rat und die Mitgliedstaaten müssen ja auch klugerweise einen Vorschlag machen, der auf eine Mehrheit im Parlament rechnen kann. Schönen Dank.
Hello. Well, I don't want to compete with Prime Minister Orban.
He always makes a show.
Well, for me, this council is especially important because we are going to sign with President Zelensky the security commitments with the European Union. Some member states have already done on their side, but these security commitments covers the military, the financial, the diplomatic, and in particular it will be the way of channeling the resources coming from Russia frozen assets. It's good that we could take this money and to provide more military support to Ukraine, training their soldiers, developing their defense industry, and providing more military support. I think today is a good moment to continue showing our unwavering commitment to support Ukraine. Then, for sure, will be the defense side. The Europeans, we have been underinvesting in defense. And now we have to recover the time that we have lost. We have to think about how do we finance a big push to increase our defense capabilities. It's not going to be easy because neither member states nor the European Union have enough resources to make a big push. But it's clear that since the euro crisis, the European has been under-investing on defense. And when the war came, we discovered that our military stock were below the line, and we had to buy outside the European Union almost 75% of our military buying and military supplies. This is not affordable. This cannot be for a geostrategic player to behave. And then the situation in the Middle East, a strong concern. Biden plan has not been implemented. Neither one side nor the other has been willing to implement this plan, despite the fact that it was a Security Council resolution backing this plan. And now what do we see? We see starvation continues, bombing continues, humanitarian support is not entering into Gaza. Last day, the managing director of the World Food Programme, Ms. Cindy McCain, insisted on the idea that nothing has changed in Gaza. Now starvation, bombing, malnutrition. This is something that the international community has to deal with. It's not the only problem in the West Bank. The European will have to discuss about how do you face in order to stop the violence in the West Bank. And then the situation in the Lebanese border. We have to stop the spillover of the war against the Kurd region.
Mr. Borrell, on the Middle East, there's a very strong language in the Council conclusions. Is this a paradigm shift? Do you think that we will soon see restrictive measures against Israel?
No, this is not in the agenda, but in the agenda we have the Association Council. Association Council cannot be a business as usual council because things that's happening are not business as usual. So this will be the occasion for the member states to discuss with Israel's counterpart about what's going on in Gaza, what's going on in the Middle East, and look for the most important and pressing issue to stop the military actions, to provide humanitarian support, and start thinking on a political solution. Thank you.
My family in North Gaza, what I can tell him, what I can promise him, no food, no water, no electricity, what I can tell him.
Tell him that the European Union is doing everything they can in order to provide them with water and food. We are the biggest donor, and we are the one who is pushing more for Israel to open the border and allow humanitarian support to come. Thank you. And we are very much aware of what they are suffering, and that's why we are increasing our capacity and our work in order to stop this dramatic carnage.
I have a European question.
And minimum of the food. I know. That's what Cindy McCain was saying. Nothing has changed in Gaza. Humanitarian support is still not entering. Israel is continuing impending humanitarian support to continue, starving people. That's why the European Union today a strong language about it.
Everyone say thank you for you in Gaza. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
First of all, we very much welcome the fact that President Zelensky is here, and we are very glad that we can continue to work on the enlargement path, also in the new Parliament, as accession negotiations have started with Ukraine and Moldova, something that we asked for a very long time, and I have no doubt that the next European Parliament will continue on that path. On the programme, so 2.5 weeks ago we had European elections. We got pretty clear messages from those elections, and now we have to make sure that we implement the political message into our programme. And that means that we need to renew our focus on competitiveness, on security, on defence, and also on making sure that nobody's left behind in the digital and green transitions. Those were pretty clear messages to us, and that is around the messages that we are building as we start to compose the new Parliament. Finally, on the appointments, we very much look forward in order for us to take the first steps on an agreement today during this European Council. We are ready as a European Parliament to take the necessary decisions. So once they are taken, we do it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Six men decided on the EU's most important jobs. Is that very democratic?
Well, the decision will be taken today. We look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Ja, heute wieder ein wichtiger Rat mit vielen verschiedenen Themen. Großes mediales Interesse ist die Frage der Besetzung der Spitzenpositionen innerhalb der Europäischen Union, also Präsidentin der Kommission, Ratspräsident, Präsidentin oder eben auch die hohe Außenbeauftragte oder Beauftragter. Das wird tatsächlich ein wichtiger Teil des heutigen Tages sein, aber es geht auch um sehr viele Inhalte, wie zum Beispiel, dass wir als Österreich erreicht haben, dass das Thema Migration wieder auf die Ratsagenda gesetzt worden ist. Es geht um den Außengrenzschutz. Es wird um Asylverfahren in sicheren Drittstaaten gehen, also dass das Thema Migration eben weiter und vor allem der Kampf gegen illegale Migration auf der Agenda des Rates bleibt. Und als nächster wichtiger Punkt die Wettbewerbsfähigkeit der Europäischen Union, die Frage des Standortes, wie wir tatsächlich die Überregulierung wegbringen können, damit eben freie Wirtschaft, Innovation, Forschungsfreiheit in der Europäischen Union stärker möglich ist als bisher.
Herr Bundeskanzler, Sie haben an dieser Stelle immer wieder gesagt, man darf kleinere Länder nicht übergehen bei wichtigen Entscheidungen. Uns haben die Unternehmen nach 6 europäische Staatenlenkerinnen sich auf diese 3 Top-Jobs geeinigt. Waren Sie hier involviert oder fühlen Sie sich hier übergangen?
Nein, hier waren wir insofern involviert, als die Parteienfamilien vorher die Sitzungen beschlossen haben. Die Europäische Volkspartei hat ja die Europawahlen insgesamt gewonnen. Und die Parteienfamilien haben jeweils beschlossen, Verhandler zu nominieren. In dem Fall war es für die Europäische Volkspartei der griechische Premierminister und der polnische Premierminister. Mit denen sind wir abgestimmt und die sind eben in diese Plattform dann hineingegangen, wo Liberale und Sozialdemokraten auch vertreten sind, um dann eben das Personalpaket, wie es genannt wird, zu verhandeln.
Verstehen Sie den Unmut zum Beispiel von Giorgia Meloni, die ja vielleicht die drittstärkste Fraktion wird im EU-Parlament, die EKR, dass sie hier keinen Job bekommt bei ihrer Fraktion?
Ich glaube, es ist wichtig, gerade auch Italien, gerade auch die italienische Premierministerin gut einzubinden in diesen Verhandlungsprozess. Ich trete auch innerhalb der Europäischen Volkspartei dafür ein. Giorgia Meloni ist eine Premierministerin, die sehr viele gute Initiativen gesetzt hat für die Europäische Union, für die Sicherheit an unseren Außengrenzen. Gerade wenn ich auch an ihre Afrika-Strategie denke, damit auch für Österreich ist sie eine wichtige Partnerin.
Gerade beim Thema Israel und Nahost sehen wir sehr, sehr starke Worte in den Schlussfolgerungen. Sehen Sie hier einen Paradigmenwechsel der Europäischen Union in ihrer Politik, vor allem gegenüber Israel?
Also so wie die Schlussfolgerungen jetzt formuliert sind, werden sie nicht beschlossen werden. Österreich, Tschechien und die Bundesrepublik Deutschland sind hier klar dabei, gewisse Formulierungen so zu verändern, dass sie auch tatsächlich unserer Position Rechnung tragen, nämlich volle Solidarität mit Israel, auch volle Solidarität mit den Palästinenserinnen und Palästinensern. Aber der klare Feind heißt Hamas und die Terrororganisation ist für den Krieg verantwortlich.
Der ukrainische Präsident Volodymyr Zelenskiy ist hier, er bekommt Sicherheitsgarantie mehr in seinem Syrien von bereits beschlossenen Unterstützungsleistungen. Noch immer blockiert ist die sogenannte Friedensfazilität, 6,5 Milliarden. Werden Sie das Thema ansprechen oder erwarten Sie eine Diskussion, weil sie noch immer von den Ungarn blockiert werden?
Also klar ist es, dass wir zu unserem Wort stehen müssen. Österreich als neutrales Land hat hier klare Rahmenbedingungen, wie wir tatsächlich der Ukraine helfen können. Österreichische Hilfe ist immer nicht militärisch.
Eine Frage zu Meloni. Gestern hat Meloni gesagt, dass es eine Oligarchie ist, in der wir jetzt leben. Was sagen Sie dazu? Wie geht es weiter? Wie kann man jetzt die Jobs so entscheiden?
Ich glaube, das Entscheidende ist, dass wir die Diskussionskultur deutlich verbessern, dass wir die konstruktiven Kräfte innerhalb des Europäischen Parlaments, die auch für Europa stehen, auch wenn sie anderen Fraktionen angehören, wie Giorgia Meloni, es als Europäischer Volkspartei sich gesehen mit auf den Weg nehmen. Das Kriterium muss sein, dass man für Europa ist, dass man für Rechtsstaatlichkeit ist und dass man eben auch die Position der Europäischen Union in der Solidarität mit der Ukraine unterstützt. Ich finde, das sollten die Maßstäbe sein, wie man miteinander spricht, wie man miteinander umgeht. Und das trennt auch die konstruktiven Kräfte von den Extremisten.
Vielen Dank. Ich kann auch eine Frage zur Forschung der deutschen Innenministerin. Ich möchte Menschen, die in Terrororganisationen zu hören sind, leichter, schneller abschieben.
Ja, das ist eigentlich basierend auf einem Vorschlag Österreichs. Der österreichische Innenminister fordert seit einem Jahr, dass Abschiebungen Richtung Syrien und Afghanistan wieder möglich sind. Deutschland hat jetzt diesen Weg auch aufgenommen. Damit haben wir einen starken Verbündeten und ich halte es für wichtig, dass diejenigen, die unsere Schutzgewährung missbrauchen, die gegen das Strafrecht verstoßen, die Menschen gefährden und tatsächlich verletzen oder gar töten, wie wir es in Deutschland erlebt haben, aber auch wie wir es in Österreich sehen, dass die dann tatsächlich abgeschoben werden können und dass das Schutzinteresse der Allgemeinheit höher ist als das subjektive Schutzinteresse eines Straftäters, der noch dazu Schutz gesucht hat. Danke. Danke.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I should like to welcome you and kindly invite you to take your seats for the signing ceremony of the day, ahead of the exchanges between the distinguished members of the European Council and its esteemed guests. The joint security commitments between the European Union and Ukraine will be signed by His Excellency the President of Ukraine, Mr. Volodymyr Zelenskiy, His Excellency the President of the European Council, Mr. Charles Michel, and Her Excellency the President of the European Commission, Ms. Ursula von der Leyen. We will now proceed with the signing. I should like to invite Their Excellencies the Presidents to stand up for a joint photo. Excellencies, thank you very much. We shall now move to the signing of a bilateral agreement between the Republic of Lithuania and Ukraine. I should like to invite His Excellency the President of Ukraine, Mr. Volodymyr Zelenskiy, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Lithuania, Mr. Gitanas Nausėda, for the signing of the Agreement on Security Cooperation between the Republic of Lithuania and Ukraine. We will now proceed with the signing. I should like to invite Their Excellencies the Presidents to stand up for a joint photo. Excellencies, thank you very much. We shall now move to the concluding act of the ceremony foreseen for today, the signing of a bilateral agreement between Estonia and Ukraine. I should like to invite His Excellency, the President of Ukraine, Mr. Volodymyr Zelenskiy, Her Excellency, the Prime Minister of Estonia, Ms. Kaja Kallas, for the signing of the Agreement on Security Cooperation and long-term support between Estonia and Ukraine. We will now proceed with the signing. I should like to invite Their Excellencies the President and the Prime Minister to stand up for a joint photo. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the signing ceremony has now come to an end. Thank you all for your presence and for having witnessed these solemn moments. We will now welcome the press for a short media moment. I kindly invite you to remain seated during the media opportunity. The meeting will resume shortly.
Dear colleagues, I would like to welcome all of you. I would like to welcome you, dear President of Ukraine, dear Volodymyr. We are extremely pleased to have you today here in Brussels and to have this occasion to have once again an exchange of views with you on the state of play, on the situation in Ukraine. This is an important summit, it's an important meeting, and this meeting takes place in an important moment. And I have the impression that the recent weeks, together with you, with your country, we have tried to do our best to make some additional progress in our support for Ukraine, for the people of Ukraine. First of all, there was this important peace summit that took place in Switzerland, and we'd like to congratulate you and Ukraine on the result, on the outcome of this peace summit. This was important to rally a big part of the international community to express our common support for the UN Charter, for the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of Ukraine. It's also important to identify some concrete consequences of the war for the world, and to try to engage with partners across the world so that we can try to deliver and to make some progress in the humanitarian domain, in the field of the energy sector, or in the food security, for instance. This is one first element, and we are determined to support you so that there can be a useful follow-up following that meeting that took place in Switzerland. This is the first point. Second point, today once again we have the occasion to discuss our support to Ukraine, the financial support, the military support. You know that a few weeks ago in Italy, in the framework of the G7, we made some important steps to support Ukraine, and we have the occasion to see how at the EU's level we can make sure that we show our solidarity, including at the financial level. And finally, a few days ago, we made an additional important political step. We remember that you decided to apply to become an EU member, and the European Council decided to grant the candidate status to Ukraine. In the meantime, you made a lot of efforts. You put in place a lot of fundamental reforms, and we are very pleased that we made the decision a few days ago to start the negotiations with Ukraine following this first IGC that took place a few days ago. In a nutshell, dear President, dear Volodymyr, I would like to tell you that we know and understand what's at stake. We are very impressed by your leadership and by the political will and the courage of the people of Ukraine. We know that you are fighting for your freedom, you are fighting for your land, for your future, for your children, but you are also fighting for our common values and principles. And we have to explain, I think, all across the EU that by supporting Ukraine, we support a more stable and a more prosperous European continent in the future. This is also our collective duty to explain again and again to our European citizens. These are a few points I wanted to make in introduction. Now I would like to pass the floor to you, Volodymyr, but once again feel welcome. It's a great honor and pleasure to be with you today here in Brussels.
Friends, dear colleagues, dear Ursula, and I'm grateful to you that during these very difficult years for all of us, for Europe, we have maintained unity and ensured that Europe is stronger. The world has seen Europe's effectiveness, has seen our ability to find the right decision at the right time. Dear friends, the EU approved a negotiation framework for Ukraine, and negotiations on our country's accession have already begun. Thank you very much for it. This is Europe's historic choice. Thank you again. And I am convinced that every European nation that shares common European values should be part of the European family. This is true for Ukraine. This is true for Moldova, really for the peoples of the Balkans, I'm sure Georgia's moment will come. And I'm sure that there will be decisions regarding Belarus, because it's also a European nation that should be in a united Europe in the future. And now it will be right for us to move from decision to decision without wasting time. We have already held the first intergovernmental conference between Ukraine and the EU, and we hope that the next steps will not be delayed, including the official screening procedure. Ukraine is ready to go through all the necessary steps, and I would also like to thank you for the security agreements. Today, Charles Michel, Ursula von der Leyen and we signed the joint security commitments with the EU. Together with President Nausėda, I signed a security agreement between Ukraine and Lithuania, and together with Prime Minister Kallas, the security agreement between Ukraine and Estonia. And I invite everyone in Europe who is still on the sidelines of the security work to join us. And one more thing that is important to mention: in May, Putin tried to expand the war by launching a new offensive in the east of our country. Thanks to the bravery of our people and the decisions of of you, of our partners, we stopped this Russian offensive. But this new Russian offensive proved that the existing pressure on Russia for the war is not enough. And so, first, I wanted to mention about military support, artillery, shells, and fulfillment of every promise is important, not only in terms of protecting lives, but also to destroy the Russian illusion that they will achieve something by war. Funding is very important through the European Peace Facility and on a bilateral basis, funding that is timely, as well as logistics, so that each package that is announced comes to the battlefield as soon as possible. Second, air, shield and long-range capabilities. We are managing to bring security back to Kyiv, one of the largest cities in Ukraine, security from Russian missiles. This is due to the elimination of Russian missile launchers near our border. Each of you knows how this became possible. And also we must protect Kharkiv and every other city in Ukraine from Russian guided bombs. That is a big problem. Our long-range strikes and modern air defense are the key to stopping this terror. And I thank each and every one of you who is helping to make this happen. The third is Russian assets. And I'm grateful for the decision that provide Ukraine with the financial resources from frozen Russian assets. It's fair that the assets of the terrorist state work to protect Ukraine suffering from Russian terror, and all the assets of the terrorist state should work to protect life, of course. And we must find the right way to confiscate all these assets. And now we see how the sanctions against Russian oligarchs started to be lifted. We must stop these and strengthen sanctions because Putin's regime rests on such money. And the fourth is energy. Closer to winter, it can be the first, really. And so Putin wages an all-out war against our energy sector. It's our duty to prevent Russia from setting a precedent for destroying the energy of an entire nation. If Russia succeeds, it will become part of military doctrines around the world. Energy is one of the foundations of the normal human life. We do everything we can to restore the power generation and to protect this generation, and we need a significant increase in electricity imports from the EU, as well as support with equipment and other resources to protect and restore our energy system. And the fifth is diplomacy. Thank you all. I thank all of you for participating in the Peace Summit, which was a clear success of our peacemaking efforts. We proved that the world can unite to restore the full effectiveness of the UN Charter and return peace to Ukraine. 9 more participants have signed the final communique of the summit, and we are continuing this work with more signatures to come. I also invite you to join the preparation of the second Peace Summit. We are now organizing groups that will work on developing specific action plans to bring the just end of the war reliably, honestly, and for a long time. And we need as much joint efforts as possible to achieve this. Europe has proven that it can be efficient, and I thank you for that. Thank you for your support. I am grateful for this historic Belgium presidency of the EU, and I wish the next one, the Hungarian presidency, to be effective. Slava Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you, Vladimir. And now I would like to give the floor to Mette Frederiksen, please.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you, Volodymyr, for participating here today. I think for the last more than 2 years,
what is your answer to some of the concerns raised by Viktor Orban and Giorgia Meloni that the way that discussions happen on the top jobs has not been the most productive?
Well, let me first start with what is the main reason why we're here. It's the end of the Belgian presidency, a presidency that I think you could call a deal-making presidency. A tremendous amount of work has been done. First of all, in the domain of Ukraine, with the 13 and 14 package that has been agreed, opening of the accession discussions, deal on immobilized assets. So a lot of things have happened in that domain. On the legislative side, one file for every working day during our presidency, so a tremendous amount of work that happened. And then on the future, on the next 5 years, we came out with a list of priorities which are agreed on, which is competitiveness really at the core of our economic policy, defense and security, of course, migration, and our values. I think that now the priorities have been set. You have to look at what is a coalition of political groups that can work together. Because what we need in the next 5 years is stability, political stability, and being able to act fast. Then you look around in the European Parliament and there are 3 groups that are willing to work together. That's how democracy works. You form a coalition of political groups that want to work together, that want to provide stability, that want to be action-oriented, and based on that, 3 very high-quality names have been put forward. That's how democracy works. Democracy is not only about blocking. Democracy is about who wants to work together, and those 3 political groups are willing to work together to the benefits of all Europeans.
Are you not concerned that you might have...
Right, and then I'll come to you.
Are you not concerned that you might be upsetting some colleagues and that in turn Meloni and Orban, they might be asking for higher portfolios at the Commission?
We'll listen. But that's up to the President of the Commission to constitute the European Commission, and I guess it will also be linked to the quality of the people that are being presented. But what is important is that you make sure that the institutions function. To make the institutions function, you need a presidency of the Council, a presidency of the Commission, you need a high rep. There's also decisions to be made in Parliament, but that's first of all the heads of those institutions. They need to be able to function together. And if there is one thing we need to improve over the last 5 years is let's make sure that you have quality people who are willing to work together. But that's how democracy works. It's not about people who are not willing to work together. It's about people who are willing to work together. And those 3 political groups are able to, but let's listen around the table. Yes. I don't know. There is a saying in Dutch that sometimes the soup is not eaten at the same temperature that it is being served, which basically means yesterday was yesterday. Let's listen what is being said around the table today. I don't know. Every election needs to take place. I have no crystal ball. And it's the French who will decide on who they vote into Parliament. It's not me as a Belgian, so I will have to look at the result. And we can do a lot of what-if questions, but in general they're not very useful. Let's wait for the results and we'll judge afterwards. Yes.
Tell us, he was talking about next concrete steps, air defense. So what would these next concrete steps look like?
Well, I've seen that some countries have made noticeable contributions. I think Romania did that some days ago. A few weeks ago, Belgium decided to provide 30 F-16s. A few of them will be delivered still in 2024. So we see that it is being built up. Of course, in a situation like this, with Ukrainians who are fighting for their sovereignty, fighting for the security of the population, it's never enough. And I understand that there is a push to do always more, but we see that a lot of efforts have happened, and we will continue to do better, more, and faster.
Mr. Zelensky said he needs help fast. He said he needs help fast, but Hungary is still blocking the European peace facility for more than a year. Do you expect any progress here?
Yeah, it would be good to come to a conclusion. Up to now, it has not been possible. But I hope we find a creative solution too, because the financial means are there. Also on the frozen assets, I mean, the means are there. So it's not a question of not having financing. It's a question of how do you execute it. So I hope he can come to an agreement there, and I hope that the presence of President Zelensky here helps. I mean, signing this security agreement is an important step. We have done this on the national level between Ukraine and Belgium a few weeks ago. So I hope that, I mean, that's why you need councils, is that sometimes people are pessimistic before the council starts, but very often we overachieve in the results around the table.
Mr. Prime Minister, will you discuss Georgia?
Yes, it is part of the discussions that will take place, but let us first listen to what is being said around the table. Sorry, last question, yes. It has been for too long. Too many people have been killed, and for too long we have been asking and we have been requesting that the violence would stop. It's good to see that there have been initiatives on the US side, that in Europe we are putting ourselves on the same line. What we need is sensible and responsible people that gather around the table. That gather around the table to release the hostages, to stop the violence, and to provide a future for the inhabitants of Palestine, of Gaza, but also the inhabitants of the whole region, being it in Israel and in Lebanon as well. Thank you. Goodbye. Ik dacht dat iedereen naar Mark Rutte aan het luisteren was. Dus, nou, een assertieve micro. Bon, wie beginnen we? Ja. Ja, dat zijn 3 namen van mensen van bijzonder hoge kwaliteit. En uiteindelijk wat we in Europa nodig hebben is stabiliteit en snel kunnen beginnen. Dat kan alleen als je politieke groepen hebt die met elkaar willen samenwerken. En daar zijn de christendemocraten, de socialisten en de liberalen zeer duidelijk geweest. Dit zijn de 3 partijen die willen samenwerken. Ja, zo ga je vooruit. En ik weet dat er een aantal partijen zijn, meer aan de extreemrechtse kant, die zeggen, ja, maar wij willen de zaken blokkeren. Dat mag in een democratie, maar Europa gaat vooruit door mensen die met elkaar willen samenwerken. Die stellen nu 3 kandidaten naar voren. Dat zijn kandidaten van zeer hoge kwaliteit. Zorgt ook voor een regionale spreiding. Zorgt voor de juiste evenwichten die we moeten hebben. Oh, laten we luisteren hoe het rond de tafel eraan toe gaat. Want dit is wel een belangrijke stap vooruit. Want Europa heeft heel veel uitdagingen. Op het gebied van competitiviteit, op het gebied van veiligheid, op het gebied van het beschermen van onze waarden. Dus ik hoop dat wat hier op de tafel ligt, dat we daar een akkoord kunnen rond hebben. En dat het Europees Parlement op 18 juli haar meerderheid kan geven. Maar als je gehoord wil worden, dan moet je natuurlijk een bereidheid hebben om samen te werken. En zo werken coalities. Coalities, dat zijn partijen die zeggen, wij kunnen samen met elkaar iets doen. We zijn bereid om water in onze wijn te doen. We zijn bereid om oplossingen te gaan vinden. Maar weet je, er is veel verklaard geweest. Heel vaak wordt de soep niet zo warm gegeten als ze opgediend wordt. Dus laten we eens luisteren wat er rond de tafel juist gezegd wordt. Nee, Kaja Kallas is een zeer goede kandidaat. En kijk, je moet ook kijken naar wat de uitslag van verkiezingen is en wat de regionale spreiding is. En dit zorgt voor een goed evenwicht.
3 namen zijn er voorgeschoven. Zijn de juiste figuren voorgesteld?
Eerst en vooral wat belangrijk is wat gaan we doen. En dat heeft het Belgisch voorzitterschap voorbereid. Prioriteit is competitiviteit van onze industrie, is onze veiligheid, is asiel en migratie, is het beschermen van onze waarden. Dan moet je zorgen dat men tijdens de volgende legislatuur stabiliteit heeft en snel kan beginnen. Dat kan er op basis van de samenstelling van het Europees Parlement, waar je 3 politieke groeperingen hebt. De liberalen, de socialisten en de christendemocraten, die zeggen wij willen met elkaar samenwerken en wij kunnen een meerderheid vormen. En dan kan je kijken, ja, wie zijn de personen die aan het hoofd gaan staan van die instellingen, van de Europese Raad, van de Europese Commissie en van de External Action Service. En daar zijn 3 kandidaten voorgesteld die echt van hoge kwaliteit zijn, die ook de juiste geografische spreiding hebben, die de juiste evenwichten hebben. Ik hoop dat men daar een akkoord kan over vinden, maar dan moeten we rond de tafel naar elkaar luisteren.
Maar Georgia
Kijk, laten we naar elkaar luisteren. Maar een coalitie wordt gevormd door partijen die zeggen dat ze met elkaar willen samenwerken. En dat ze bereid zijn om tot een evenwicht te komen. Laten we kijken, er zijn veel verklaringen in de pers geweest. Maar ik denk dat we vooral rond de tafel naar elkaar moeten luisteren.
Wie wordt de volgende Belgische en 18 juli als jullie bij gekozen wordt in het Europees Parlement? Dan zou je de vraag aan België
Dat zullen we op dat moment zien. Hè. Laten we eerst ervoor zorgen dat mevrouw von der Leyen een meerderheid haalt in het Europees Parlement. En dat zal best wel een opdracht zijn. Dus dan zal iedereen daarvan overtuigen. En dan zullen wij op een bepaald moment die brief krijgen en zullen we zien welke het politieke momentum op dat moment is in ons land. Maar dat hebben wij nog gedaan. Dus dat hebben we nog gedaan. Ik heb nu intussen deel uitgemaakt van 3 regeringsvormingen. Heel vaak komt dat op tafel tijdens de regeringsvorming. En we slagen er altijd in om iemand voor te stellen die gedragen is. Die ook de juiste kwaliteit heeft en die ervoor kan zorgen dat wij een topfunctie in de Europese Commissie kunnen binnenhalen. Het moet vooral een goede zijn.
Prime Minister,
Yeah, sure. Rapidly. It would not be a good thing. It would be better if the Council can show its unity, and then it's up to the European Parliament to vote. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's listen around the table. I think that is maybe one of the points that needed to happen last time. There's a bit more talking and a bit more listening instead of proposing a group altogether. The strategic outlook is also on the table. That was one of the key points was, okay, who, but also what. The what we as Belgians in our presidency have already prepared. So I will in French now. Oui. Essayons tout d'abord de s'écouter. Donc la question, c'est pas uniquement le qui, mais surtout le quoi. Le quoi, ça c'est la Belgique qui l'a préparé dans notre présidence du Conseil, où on a bien établi les priorités pour la prochaine législature. Ce dont on aura besoin, c'est de la stabilité et de la rapidité dans l'action. Et donc, on doit d'abord stabiliser la présidence du Conseil, la présidence de la Commission et la présidence du High Representative. Ça, il faut que ça soit stabilisé, et ça peut être stabilisé basé sur des accords politiques. Et on voit qu'il y a 3 groupes politiques qui sont prêts à travailler ensemble. C'est les libéraux, les socio-chrétiens et les socialistes qui sont prêts à travailler ensemble. C'est comme ça que la politique fonctionne. C'est des partis qui disent on a l'ambition de travailler ensemble avec un certain projet politique, et ce projet politique est sur table maintenant, basé là-dessus. 3 noms ont été mis en avant, c'est des noms de qualité qui représentent aussi l'équilibre géographique et d'autres équilibres en Europe. Écoutons-nous et regardons ce qui se passe. Beaucoup d'excitation là. Oui. Non, il y a tout un agenda, il y a 20 pages de conclusion. Mais il y a beaucoup de travail qui a été fait. C'est la consécration de la présidence belge, une présidence qui a vraiment fait beaucoup plus que ce qu'elle avait attendu de cette présidence. Donc non, il y a beaucoup de choses qui sont sur la table. Un de ceux-là, c'est naturellement les 5 ans à venir. Il y a plein de choses à discuter.
Sur la présidence belge, vous êtes fier du bilan de la Belgique après...
Je pense qu'on peut être vraiment fier du bilan de la Belgique. Ça a été ce qu'on appelle le deal-making presidency. On a fait, sur le côté législatif, pour chaque jour de notre présidence, on a fait un accord pour l'Ukraine, on a fait un accord sur les avoirs gelés, on a fait un accord sur le 3e et le 4e paquet de sanctions, on a ouvert les discussions d'accession de l'Ukraine. Donc on a fait énormément de choses, on a établi les priorités pour les années à venir. Donc je pense que oui, on peut être fier de cela, et ce sera surtout à la prochaine présidence et à cette période de 5 ans de finir cet agenda.
Comment vous voyez cette future présidence?
Mais voilà, tout le monde a le droit de jouer. Vous savez, une des grandes leçons, c'est que la présidence, ça ne veut pas dire que vous êtes le chef de l'Europe. La présidence, vous êtes celui qui doit faire le compromis, et c'est peut-être un rôle intéressant pour M. Orban d'être dans ce rôle-là. Merci. Au revoir. action-oriented, and based on that, three.
Nagyszerű. Szomorúak? Jó, de jártak iskolába, nem? Nem, hanem a magyar történelemben olyan még sosem volt, hogy valaki más kaparja ki nekünk a gesztenyét. Emlékszik ilyenre? Tehát ha magyarok valamit el akarnak érni, akkor vagy elérik, de hogy más érje helyettük, az olyan biztos nem lesz. Tehát miután nem tudtuk megoldani saját erőből, hát így jártunk. Na, hogy járunk ma? Nézzük ezt. Igen, lesz, igen. Van egy megállapodás, amit szégyenteljesnek kell, hogy minősítsek. A megállapodást pártalapon hozták létre. Nem programok, nem az eddigi teljesítmény, nem a jövendőbeli tervek, kifejezetten egy hatalmi osztozkodás valósult meg, amit 3 párt hajtott végre, a Néppárt, a szocialisták és a liberálisok. Ami egy pimasság az európai választókkal szemben, akik többségükben jobb oldalra szavaztak, és szerettek volna egy jobboldali európai vezetést látni, de a Néppárt begyűjtötte a jobboldali szavazatok egy részét, majd elvitte balra. És így becsapták az európai választókat. Ez a most létrejött koalíció, a hazugság és a becsapásnak a pártkoalíciója, amely se az elmúlt 5 év rossz teljesítményét nem veszi figyelembe, se a következő szakra szóló programokról nem szól, csak hatalmi osztozkodásról. Úgyhogy ez a helyzet, nincs semmi okunk arra, hogy mi ezt a hatalommal való visszaélést támogassuk, nem tudjuk támogatni ezt, különösképpen még a bizottság elnökasszonyát meg azért sem tudjuk támogatni, mert a jogállamiság eszközét, ami egy fontos európai érték, az párt alapon és politikai alapon használta, és használja Magyarországgal szemben. Amikor Lengyelországban kormányváltás volt, amit a jogállamiság eszközeivel innen mindig is támogattak, és megcsináltak egy csomó változást, ami minimum kétséges, akkor a bizottság egy szót sem szólt. Amikor én levélben megkérdeztem, hogy amit az új lengyel kormány megtett Lengyelországban, a szabad-e nekünk magyaroknak megtenni? Még válaszra sem éltatta. Tehát egy ilyen bizottság elnöke nem maradhat a mi fölfogásunk szerint a helyén, ezért nem is tudjuk támogatni. Hosszú listán van. Senki. Igen. A magyar
ágazati támogatásoknak a szövetségrendszeri az specifikus ajánlásoknak értékesítástól.
Igen, ezeket mind dicséretnek vesszük. Ezek a magyar gazdaságpolitika fontos eszközei, ezek járulnak ahhoz hozzá, hogy a magyar gazdasági növekedés jóval meghaladja az Európai Unió átlagát, ebből jön a magyar siker. Ők ezt a sikert akarják tőlünk elvenni, de sajnos ezt mi nem adhatjuk.
Az elmúlt napokban a magyar elnökség programjával kapcsolatban milyen viszonyokat kapott?
Hát van egy programunk, amely a versenyképesség és a mondjuk úgy, a gazdasági növekedésről szól, és azt mindenki támogatja. Ezen kívül akarunk még békét, no migration és economic growth. Nagyjából ez van. A programunk 95%-a mögött a nagy országok támogatása ott van. Congratulations, you have done historical victory yesterday.
Yeah. And what about political? Here, you will discuss with your colleagues
Situation.
Yeah.
Things are going well in Georgia. I mean, the pulse on European membership is okay. Georgian government is doing well. Economy is improving. So I think you are on the right track.
Are you going to miss Mr. Rutte? It's the last meeting at the council table today.
Oh, he's not here.
He is here, but it's the last time. You have something to say to him. Are you going to miss him?
No, we made a fair deal. When we decided to support his candidacy for Secretary General position of NATO, we made a deal which was announced in a written form by him, so it's guaranteed. Fair done.
Are you going to miss him? Are you going to miss him here?
It would be an exaggeration. Igen. Látja, azon vagyok.
Francia választások mennyire árnyékolják be itt a mai tanácsban?
Hát nem beárnyékolják, hanem napsütést adnak.
Beszédtéma ez a...
Hát hivatalosan nem, de persze mindenki erről beszél. Franciaországa Európa döntő országa, ott vasárnap nagy dolgok is történhetnek. Mindenki tudja ezt. Not yet. It's inclusivity. It's exclusivity. So that's a division between the right and the left, which is not good. So it's not based on the merit of the election. If it would be based on the merit of election, that would be EPP, Socialist, and ECR, which is the number 3. But instead of ECR, it's Renew, which is clear evidence that this is a party-based deal. Shameful. Yeah, of course, but the question is not majority and minority. If you create positions in the European Union, majority and minority, you make similar to the national government structures, which was not the case here, because inclusivity is the most important, because nobody is in opposition, everybody would like to be the common job here.
So what should be done now? What should be done now?